Hello, hello, welcome back to another episode here of the Lore Chroniclers tier list. Looking today at, goddamn, I've said this so many times, right? But it truly is one of my favorite classes. In fact, I will even go so far as to say that it is my favorite all-time pure casting classes. And that is, of course, the Sorcerer, which is how come I'll admit, maybe it's going to be a little weird that some of these classes are going to end up where they are, but I'm going to stand by my choices all the same. And hopefully by the end of this, I can convert some of you wizard players into my threshold, I hope. But let's go ahead and get on started here with part one, probably, maybe even the whole thing. It depends on how fast I can go, of my Sorcerer tier list. All right, right out of the gate, I have to spell it out, all right? I always do. Gotta keep my pattern going. All right, F tier means unplayable. No, that does not mean that it is actually unplayable. What it means is that this subclass gives you so little benefit that whatever concept you have in your mind, whatever character you are trying to create, whatever you wish to be good at, you will not be able to do. All right, this subclass does not help you, which in my world, in my game, since I am kind of a power gamer, I am a min-maxer, I need that. I need my subclass to be something that I can, that will assist me in what my goals are. And if they are going against it, then it is unplayable. D tier. All right, if something is in D tier, then that means that it is situational at best. It doesn't mean it's horrible. It just means that you have to be playing a very specific campaign with a specific DM who's allowing certain things that other tables may or may not. All right, that's our D tier. C tier means mediocre. All right, but with possibilities. This means that, on average, you're going to be, average. All right, you're going to be mediocre most of the time, but there's going to be some times where you're actually pretty good. It's just the fact that those pretty good times are few and far between, so you're going to find yourself not really being bad, but also not being the best. B tier means decent, means good. All right, it means that there are some strong abilities, some strong things that this subclass might have, but there's just something that it's missing. All right, it's a class that when you look at it, you're like, okay, it's not a bad class, but when you compare it to some of these others, you just realize that, yeah, it's just not in the same ballpark. And that, of course, that ballpark that we're talking about is, of course, our A tier. A tier means these subclasses are solid choices. You cannot go wrong with them. You will have a great time. The only thing that, should be a deciding factor amongst them is, what is it you're trying to do in this, in your upcoming D&D game? What is the vibe? What is the concept? These are the characters that will best, these are the subclasses that will best assist you in whatever it is you are trying to create. All right, and then of course my S tier is simply the best subclass. It is the A tier of A tiers. So let's get started. F tier, there is none. There is no F tier sorcerer in my tier list. Now, there is one subclass that is going to show up here on this list, and I bet you it's going to be higher than what most people would think it would be. But we're going to talk about it, all right? We'll get there. But before we go too far, there is some things we need to discuss here about the sorcerer, right? And there are some things that they are problems that the game has, that Wizards of the Coast have allowed, that have such easy fixes that if I got any DMs that are ever going to watch any of these videos, probably not, but if ever, just so that I can say I've said it, there are some very easy fixes that turn the sorcerer from not a great spell caster, which many people have complaints about the sorcerer, especially when it's compared to, say, the wizard, but it comes in such easy fixes. So what are these problems then? First off, the lack of spells at certain level. If you do not take a sorcerer subclass from Tasha's is the book that introduced expanded spell lists for sorcerers. 2 at level 1, 2 at level 3, 2 at level 5, 7, and 9. Okay, many other spellcasters, they get that. Every cleric gets that, right? Every druid, well, most druids get that. Warlocks get that. The sorcerer does not. The sorcerer does not get that expanded spell list, and it sucks. And the reason why it sucks is this. All right, let's take a cleric, say. All right, let's take a cleric at level 1 with a 3 in its wisdom modifier. All right, let's take a sorcerer with a 3 in their charisma. At level 1, a sorcerer can know 2 spells. Only 2. A cleric at first level can know 4. Now, that may not sound like that big of a jump, but let's just go ahead and jump ahead a little bit. All right, let's get an ability score improvement in there. All right, let's say we get to like level 5, level 6. Okay. Now that we've had the chance to get maybe a couple of ability score improvements, let's say that cleric has got that ability score improvement all the way up to like a 5, right? You know, the 16 was the start, but let's say that they chose a race that gave them a +2, so that, you know, that got them to 18, and the very first ASI that they got at level 4, you know, they put that into a 2 in their wisdom stat. So, you know, now they're level 5, level 6, okay, +5 on their wisdom, that's 11 spells. Oh, and don't forget that since they're 11th level, they now have all those expanded spell list spells. So they got 2 at level 1, so 11 has now turned to 13, 2 at level 3, so that's now 15, 2 at level 5, which means now we're at 17. So we're sitting at 17 spells that cleric just knows. How many spells does a sorcerer know at level 5, level 6? About 6. 6 or 7. And the fact that once a sorcerer knows it, it is the only spell that they can have on their spell list, unless you have a DM who's very, very kind and willing to allow you to switch them out. If you realize that, yeah, this one kind of sucks, hey, you know, next session, can I switch this spell out to another? This is such a horrible feeling. And what's really bad is that there's levels, I think it's like levels 12 to 13 and or 13 to 14, where you don't learn a new spell, period. You literally keep the same amount of spells. Nothing hurts more than that as a spellcaster, to realize you level up and you don't learn anything. It sucks. Alright, it's horrible. So this is an easy fix. Why can't a sorcerer have the same thing as, like, say, you know, most of the other spellcasters, which is charisma plus level? Is it really that broken for them to know more spells? I understand the theme here. I understand, you know, what Wizards of the Coast was doing. They're like, hey, these people, you know, sorcerers, they just get their magic because of something that was out of their control. All right, so, you know, they're just, you know, sugar babies from an inheritance, from a magical inheritance, and they have no choice over there. You know, like, we've all seen the memes, right? And that's funny and that's fine. But at the same point, it's like, at what point do we realize, and Wizard of the Coast figured this out, by the way, because what did they do when Tasha's came out? What did they add for every single sorcerer subclass? An expanded spell list. This is one of those times where trying to make this a flavor, trying to make this, to try to steer this class in one direction, just by making one choice, demanding that they only have so many spells, actually ended up making it worse. Alright, meta magic points. Much like the monk, a lot of sorcerers are going to run low on meta magic points. However, I will say, unlike the monk, sorcerers have the ability to get them back. Alright, if I need sorcery points for whatever reason, once I get high enough level, once I get to those levels where I might have, you know, I call them a dead spell slot, which basically just means like, hey, unless I'm casting mage armor and shield, I'm probably not going to be using my first level spell slots all too often. Alright, they're still going to be there, and they're still going to, you know, I'm still going to probably need that charm person or that detect magic, you know, like there's still some decent spells in there, but am I really using it, you know, are those my go-to spells? Probably not. Alright, especially when, you know, at certain points, like my fucking cantrip, you know, my firebolt with its 2d10 damage, you know, is going to be doing more damage on average than many of my first level spells. So at that point, you have that ability to convert sorcery or spell slots into meta magic points. Which is how come I say that although this is a kind of a tick in our side, kind of a little poke into the sorcerer class, it's not as big of a hindrance as, say, the monk, where once they're out, they're out. You know, there's no way for them to get their stuff back, you know, without resting. But again, and I've already hinted at, the last thing here is, of course, the expanded spell list, which Wizards of the Coast have even admitted that they kind of screwed up on, because they came out with Tasha's and they implemented one for every single sorcerer subclass. And I'm glad that they did. So, Now that those points have been made, all right, and I admit that these are true faults of the sorcerer. These are weaknesses that the sorcerer has to face versus, say, a druid or a cleric or a wizard or any of the other pure spellcasters. However, what sorcerers can do and the kinds of things that they can pull off, especially with those meta magic options, are fantastic. All right, so, don't give up on them. All right, I know that these things might seem like big deals, but like I said, expanded spell list, that can be fixed by literally just your DM being like, hey, if you play this subclass of sorcerer, give me like a day and I'll try to just hodgepodge an expanded spell list for you. All right, the lack of spells at certain levels, maybe it's just as simple as just, hey DM, just every time I level up, can I just please get like a spell here? If nothing else, can I at least have it so that, where it says that, 12 to 13, I don't get any spells. Can I just please get a spell every time I level up? I feel like most DMs would be like, you can do that. One new learned spell is not going to kill you. So a lot of these points are easily fixed. All right, just something to mention here. All right, so let's actually get into the serious stuff. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of it all. All right, our D tier. All right, the first of the subclasses to talk about and the worst of the sorcerer subclass. It's not the one you probably thought. It is the storm sorcerer. All right, for an expanded spell list for any new spells, none. All right, it doesn't get any because this was before Tasha's. At level 1, right, sorcerers are the class that they get their shit at level 1, which makes them a very nice multi-class option for you if you'd like to go there. Your arcane magic that you command is infused with elemental air. You can speak, read, and write primordial, which is the language of elementals. Knowing the language allows you to understand and be understood by those who speak its dialects, such as Aquan, Aryan, Ignan, and Terran. So basically the speeches of the elemental planes. Also at first level, you can use a bonus action on your turn to cause whirling gusts of elemental air to briefly surround you immediately before or after you cast a spell of first level or higher. Doing so allows you to fly up to 10 feet without provoking opportunity attacks. Here is the problem with these. One, you being able to speak Aquan, Aryan, I don't know, Ignan, and Terran, absolutely fucking useless. Right? Like, the one time your DM sends out a fire elemental and you try to convince the fire elemental to just go home, and the fire elemental goes, this place is really nice, I can burn so much shit here, why would I go home? And then you end up killing it anyway, and this whole thing is useless. Okay, right? Like, you're not gonna, how often do you have to speak primordial? Probably not very common. Now, the tempestuous magic, however, at first level, this might get you out of sticky situations. The problem is that, one, it uses your bonus action, which sorcerers, since bonus actions are, bonus actions is where we get, say, our mage armor. It's where we get, say, in the middle of a fight, it's how we, convert our stuff. I'm pretty sure it's bonus action anyway, or it might be action. Point is that with the right kind of spells, bonus actions are something that sorcerers generally have the ability to use multiple times, especially if you go the blaster route and you take quicken spell meta magic and you're just pumping out fucking cantrips like crazy, right? So the fact that this is a bonus action to use, the fact that you have to use a first level spell or higher in order to do it, and it's only fly up to 10 feet without provoking opportunity attacks. I mean, it's a very nice little, like, hey, I need, I got surrounded somehow and I need to move, jettison myself 10 feet out of the way and then use my movement speed to get out of danger. Okay, I'm not saying it's horrible. I'm just saying that it is situational. Very much so. All right, Heart of the Storm, 6th level. You gain resistance to lightning and thunder damage. In addition, whenever you start casting a spell of first level or higher that deals lightning or thunder damage, stormy magic erupts from you. This eruption causes creatures of your choice within 10 feet to take lightning or thunder damage equal to half your sorcerer level. The resistance to lightning and thunder is decent. All right, it's decent, but it is situational. All right, this is something that you are going to have to think in your mind. Okay, these are two damage types that if I'm in, say, Storm King's Thunder and there's a shit ton of Storm Giants around, or Bahirs, or, Blue Dragons, then maybe this would be decent. But like thunder damage, I bet you can't name me 4 spells that deal thunder damage. And don't tell me shatter, okay, because that's only 1. All right, name me 2 others. I bet you can't do it. So this resistance to thunder damage is basically, so you're really only looking at the lightning damage. And again, it's just so situational that even though they're 2 types, it's not great. Okay? In addition, whenever you cast a spell at first level or higher, you deal lightning or thunder damage, alright, to a creature that you see within 10 feet of you. Now, this does have a nice little piggyback with your tempestuous magic. Right, so you've suddenly found yourself in danger. People have surrounded you, so you use a first level spell, like say, shatter, thunder wave or something, and it does, the thunder damage here, because I don't think there are lightning spells at first level. Shocking grasp, I guess. So maybe you use shocking grasp at first level, okay, and by doing so, you cast it. You then do half of your level, rounded up, I'm assuming, of lightning or thunder damage to either the same creature or another creature. And then you get to move 10 feet out of the way, and then your movement speed, you get to move, and not provoke any opportunity attacks. But that required you to be surrounded. It required that enemy to actually, for this spell to actually be worth it. And this whole thing, this combination, it still required you to be surrounded, use a first level spell slot. It's not horrible, but it is very situational. Alright, Storm Guide, also at 6th level. You gain the ability to subtly control the weather around you. If it is raining, you can use your action to cause the rain to stop falling in a 20-foot radius sphere centered around you. You can end this effect as a bonus action. If it is windy, you can use a bonus action each round to choose the direction that the wind blows in a 100-foot radius sphere centered on you. The wind blows in that direction until the end of your next turn. This feature doesn't alter the speed of the wind. This is complete and utter flavor text. This is literally just, it is an ability that just lets you feel kind of like Jesus for like a fucking moment, right? Like that's it. That's all this does. Like it has so little effect to anything at all that this is just all fluff and not an actual ability. Alright, Storm's Fury, starting at 14th level. When you are hit by a melee attack, you can use your reaction to deal lightning damage to the attacker. The damage equals your sorcerer level. The attacker must make a strength saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed, the target is pushed 20 feet straight away from you. Now, I hope you're noticing a problem here. Okay, a theme of many of these abilities. And that is that they require you to be in shitty situations for them to work. Tempestuous magic requires you to be surrounded. Alright, otherwise, do you really mean to tell me that 10 extra feet of movement by you using a spell slot, is that actually a big deal to you? If you're surrounded, yes. If you're not, probably not. Otherwise, you would just move. Alright, Heart of the Storm requires you to have an enemy within 10 feet of you, which means you must be in a bad situation. And now we have Storm's Fury, which again is saying that this is something that only works when you are being hit with a melee attack. Sorcerers have the lowest health pool out of the entire 5e system. They share it with the wizards, granted, but they use a d6 for a fucking health pool. Alright, and unless you go one particular subclass, your AC is generally pretty goddamn awful. So to really have these abilities that all are like, yeah, you get to do this thing if you're surrounded and getting hit. Bitch, I don't want to get hit as a sorcerer. That's not my... I should be in the back. I should be the motherfucker that never gets hit. And yet that's not how this class is built. This is one of those situations where you have a subclass that tried to make us play a certain way that, I'm sorry, but a sorcerer just can't pull off. Unless you have a DM who let you roll for stats, you had a 20 in your charisma, a 20 in your constitution, you took the, you got a free feat at first level, you took tough once, took tough at 4th level, took tough again at fucking 8th, like maybe, so that you can actually tank these hits and actually have these abilities be worth something. But most of the time, you're gonna get hit, and you're gonna be like, oh sweet, look, I get to do these like 2 or 3 abilities back to back. Oh, but I'm also already down to half health, and I'm going to die if I get hit again. That's the problem with the Storm Sorcerer. Alright, Wind Soul. At 18th level, you gain immunity to lightning and thunder damage. Fantastic. You gain a magical fly speed of 60 feet. Hey, I always love my fly speeds. I love my fly speeds. This is a great ability. As an action, you can reduce your flying speed to 30 feet for 1 hour and choose a number of creatures within 30 feet of you equal to 3 plus your charisma modifier, which is hopefully enough to get your whole damn party, unless you were weird and don't have a good modifier in your charisma. The chosen creatures gain a magical fly speed of 30 feet for 1 hour. Once you reduce your fly speed in this way, you can do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So basically, you just grant your whole party 30 feet fly speed, no concentration required. And if you want to do it by yourself, you get 60 feet of movement, and you are immune to lightning and thunder damage. This is a fantastic ability. I love it. It is at 18th level, which kind of sucks because, again, anything past like 17th level is always kind of questionable as to whether or not your campaign will actually live long enough to see it. But I'm kind of a little bit of a sloot when it comes to flying. Whenever I get the ability to do it, I'm always for it. So I love this ability. I love that it can grant other people flying speeds without concentration. It is a great ability, but it's one of those things where it's like, is this too little, too late? I think so, and that is why this class is in D tier. Alright, C tier, we have Aberrant Mind. Alright, now some spells. I decided this one, I'm just going to kind of tell you the spells that are maybe not in the normal Sorcerer spell list, just to kind of help save my poor screen from too many words. Some of the spells were things like Arms of Hadar, Hunger of Hadar, and Summon Aberration, which is directly out of Tasha's. Good spells, especially Summon Aberration. I'm always a big fan of anytime I can summon help. Especially as a sorcerer, because sorcerers have the ability to cast big blaster spells like Fireball and Lightning Bolt, which do not require concentration. So to summon something that can take some pressure off of you, off of your tanks, off of your friends, and give you the opportunity to just kind of go around the battlefield and hurl in fireballs, I love it. I'm about it. Alright, Telepathic Speech. Starting at first level, you can form a telepathic connection between your mind and the mind of another. As a bonus action, choose one creature usually within 30 feet of you. You and the chosen creature can speak telepathically with each other, while the two of you are within a number of miles equal to your charisma modifier, which, again, probably means always. Alright, I don't know how often party members are this far away from each other, so probably often. To understand each other, you must speak mentally in a language that you each know. The telepathic connection lasts for a number of minutes equal to your sorcerer level. This ends early if you are incapacitated or die, or if you use this ability to form a connection with a different creature. It's okay. It's okay. The reason why I say it's okay is that it's nice that it is both ways. So once you've built this connection, you can have a full conversation with each other. You don't have to keep making symbols or verbal components, somatic components. It's just, hey, I get to do this. I get to link a creature, and since it's an ability and not a spell, that means that there's no sign that me and my buddy who are now being interrogated by the guards about why we broke into this building, like they don't know that we've made this connection with each other, and we can have entire conversations without them ever seeing anything. It's nice. My problem is with this is that what this ability does, you can kind of get the cheap man's version by just taking the message cantrip, which I know message is only one way. You can only talk to it. Pretty sure. I don't think you can go back. Right? It's only or no, it is. You can reply back like with a very simple like one sentence basically. But it's very simple. Yes, you have to constantly be using the cantrip, which means as a DM, if you're role-playing guards, for instance, and you see a player constantly using the message cantrip to someone, in the building across the way or hiding out somewhere, like there's somatic components, there's verbal components to message. Like I'm pretty sure anyway, like there's something to show that they are that they are casting message, whereas this doesn't. But the fact that is, again, such a very specific situation that this is better than message, I just feel like message would cover like 80% of the time you would use this ability. and all sorcerers get this ability to use message. So it's not bad, but it's not great. Oh look, it's in my C tier. All right, Psionic Sorcerer. Beginning at 6th level, when you cast any spell of 1st level or higher when you're, from your Psionic Spells feature, so the list of spells there, you can cast it by expanding a spell slot as normal or by spending a number of sorcery points equal to the spell's level. If you cast the spell using sorcery points, it requires no verbal or somatic components, and it requires no material components unless they are consumed by the spell. This I both love and hate. I love it because it means that I can cast a 1st level spell with a single sorcery point, which is way cheaper, all right, to cast a 3rd level sorcerer, a spell with 3 versus I think it's 5. I think it's like 5 or 6 meta magic points it takes to regain a 3rd level spell slot. So in terms of cost, this is so good. The problem is that the spell list for Aberrant Mind, the Psionic Spells feature, it's nothing too crazy. Right? The spells that they give you aren't something that are super mind-bogglingly awesome. And on top of that, as I've said at the beginning of this video, one of the weaknesses, one of the Achilles heels of the Sorcerer class is its meta magic points. So I think, I'll be honest, I've never played Aberrant Mind. I've read through it quite often, I've seen it in play, but I've never played it myself. But I have the oddest feeling that if I did, I would find myself starving for meta magic points very quickly, because this ability would make me want to use them to cast my spells more often than not. But that's me. Alright, also at 6th level, we have Psychic Defenses. You gain resistance to psychic damage, and you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened. Psychic is one of the rarest damage types, so I don't think that's too useful for you, but when it is, it'd be nice. And having advantage on being charmed or frightened. The charmed ability I don't think happens too often. The frightened I think pops up sometimes, often enough that maybe this is decent, but I've made this point before. The charmed ability, being resistant to being charmed or just being immune to charm outright, you can just choose certain races. And you don't have to worry about being charmed, period. So why is this even a thing? It's just one of those things where the frightened ability and the resistance to psychic damage, I feel like there's a reason that this is at 6th level. It's basically this is something we kind of want to throw into this class, but we know we need to give this class more than just this, so then they also threw Psionic Sorcery. That's what I think. So, very situational. All right, very situational. All right, at 14th level, all right, we have Revelation in Flesh. You can unleash the aberrant truth hidden within yourself. As a bonus action, you spend 1 or more sorcery points to magically transform your body for 10 minutes. For each sorcery point you spend, you can gain one of the following choices, the effects of which last until the transformation ends, so for 10 minutes. For 1 sorcery point, you can spend 1 sorcery point for any of these, or for 2, you get 2 of them, 3, you get 3 of them, 4, you get all of them. You can see invisible creatures within 60 feet of you, provided it isn't behind total cover. Because your eyes turn black and become withering sensory tendrils. All right, very kind of. I get the image of the flood off of Halo, to be honest. The second option, you gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed and can hover. Okay, as you fly, your skin glistens with mucus, or perhaps shines with an otherworldly light. The third option, you gain a swimming speed equal to twice your walking speed, and you can breathe underwater as gills grow on your neck and fan out from behind your ears. And I think that's it, actually. I think that there's only 3. And then the rest of it is just all talking more and more. Oh, sorry. There we go. The 4th one. You can move through any spaces. And I was like, I swear that there was 4. Did I forget to put that up here? The 4, sorry. You can move through any spaces narrow as 1 inch without squeezing. And you can spend 5 feet of movement to escape from non-magical constraints or being grappled. I have the oddest feeling that if you are about to jump into water and have a water battle, you will spend 1 sorcery point and get that and that only. If you need to fly, you will get that and use that only. I don't think you would spend too many sorcery points to get like 2 or 3 of these going at any given time. And that's okay. Because this is a good ability. Because it lets me fly. And as we've already come to the conclusion, I like being able to fly, and the fact it gives it to me at 14th level, which is far more able to be obtained than, say, 18th level, I like it. I like this ability. I think it's cool. The other things, far more situational. But I do like the ability to fly, and I do like that there is some choice here. And the fact that it only cost me 1 sorcery point. For 10 minutes. No concentration, as a bonus action. It's good. This is a solid choice. Alright, finally, we have 18th level, and in my opinion, one of the worst, one of the biggest letdowns. Right? It's not because it's a bad ability, but it's because it's your 18th, it's your capstone. At 18th level, you can unleash your aberrant power as a space warping anomaly. As an action, you can teleport to an unoccupied space that you can see within 120 feet of you. It's good distance, good bit of distance. Immediately after you disappear, each creature within 30 feet of you must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 3d10 force damage and is pulled towards the center of that point that you left, and it must end in an unoccupied space as close to that place as you possibly can. On a successful save, the creature takes half damage and is not pulled. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, or spend 5 sorcery points to use it again. Why the fuck am I spending 5 sorcery points to just be able to teleport 100 feet? 3d10 average is going to be, on average, about 15 to 18 points of damage. On average. Strength saves, a lot of monstrosities have pretty decent strength saves. Being pulled 30 feet, well, if you were standing there, odds are you're not standing somewhere that's super, super deadly. So do you really mean to tell me, like, unless you and, like, say, a cleric have a really great plan where the cleric throws down a symbol in the middle of the battlefield and preps it out, and then you know, kind of wait for the horde of monsters to come charging at you, and then you use this ability to suck them all in towards that one spot so that the symbol can go off and kill everybody, like, okay, that might be cool. But I think what you're going to find is that this is something you use to just kind of get out of dodge when shit is hitting the fan. But there's already spells that do that. So I guess the benefit of this is that it's not a spell, so it cannot be counterspelled, which is nice. But it's an action. It's only 120 feet, which is it's a decent chunk of movement, don't get me wrong, but it's not like, you know, it's not like, say, Dimension Door, which is only a 4th level spell, which at this point you have 3 of them, you know, and it can go 500 feet in any direction that you just think about. No, this is such a letdown. I wish the damage was more. I wish that the area of effect was bigger, and I wish that it allowed me to teleport further distance. I like this idea. Or maybe just keep the distance, but then make it a bonus action. Like, I like what they tried to do, but they failed at doing it. And I'm just not a big fan of it. Alright, we will end this video here by talking about our final C tier class. And I don't know. I don't know if it's higher than you thought it would be, for those of you who have played D&D long enough, or perhaps lower. I find that this subclass kind of gets shit on quite often, but after having played it in a Rime of Frostbane campaign, I have come to love it, and that is the Wild Magic Sorcerer. Wild Magic Surge, right? At first level, your spellcasting can unleash surges of untamed magic. Once per turn, the DM can have you roll a d20 immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell of first level or higher. When you roll a 1 on the Wild Magic, roll on the Wild Magic Surge table to create a magical effect. If that effect is a spell, it is too wild to be affected by your meta magic. And if it normally requires concentration, it doesn't require concentration in this case. The spell lasts for its duration. This is so much fun. Yes, you have a chance of being turned to a potted plant. Yes, you have a chance at first level to TPK your entire party after casting, you know, a first level Disguise Self. You cast Disguise Self, you roll a 1 on the meta, you know, on your D20, you know, you roll on the Wild Magic Surge table, and it lands on Fireball. Fireball on self. and you and your party take 8d6 fire damage at level 1, and you're just TPK'd and you're fucked. Okay, like, it is possible, I will admit. But there's also so many that are so good. Like, there are options where it's like, hey, you now have, you know, advantage on all your perception checks for the next hour. All right, you get to take a whole other turn. All right, just because. You have the ability to fly now for 10 minutes or a minute or something with no concentration. Like, for every one that's bad, there's 2 good. And it's just fun. I like the vibe of this. But I do understand that because there is a sense of randomness, that many people would look at this and go, yeah, you can say that is a good, you know, like, it's definitely not an A tier, you know, subclass because of that randomness, and because you could very well end up fucking up you and your party very quickly, depending on if you roll on that wild magic surge table. But it is fun. Alright, Tides of Chaos. At first level, you can manipulate the forces of chance and chaos to gain advantage on one attack, roll, ability check, or saving throw. Once you do so, you must finish a long rest, or if you ever roll on the wild magic surge table, you immediately get this refreshed. It's a free lucky feat. All right, you get a free lucky feat, and depending on how often you roll on that wild magic surge table, it may pop up multiple times in a day. I like it. I think it's cool. And at first level, that's pretty rad. All right, Bend Luck. At 6th level, you have the ability to twist fate using your wild magic. When another creature you see makes an attack, roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can use your reaction and spend 2 sorcery points to roll a d4. And apply that number rolled to either as either a bonus or a penalty to the creature's roll. You can do so after the creature rolls, but before any effects of the roll occur. This is such a fun ability, and the reason why I say that this is so much fun and so great is because I'm currently in the Rime of Frostmaiden campaign. I wanted to make a class in which the whole point was I'm going to use polymorph or banishment or you know, those lovely little, you know, hypnotic pattern, the spells that are, if you fail this combat is immediately heavily weighed in our favor and your big bad is fucked. And so I want to maximize the possibility of you failing. So not only did I take the meta magic option, I forget which one it is, but the meta magic option where I roll by spending sorcery points, I can make it so that you roll with disadvantage on my save. But I also went this route so that I also will spend 2 more sorcery points and bend your luck so that I can deduct a d4 off of you. Oh, and I also took a nice little dip into a cleric so that for the sole reason that I could also gain Bane, and I could Bane you. I love it. Although I think Bane was for ability checks. I'm pretty sure. I think Bane is ability checks. I don't know. No, I think it is. I think it is saving throws. I think it's a d4 minus saving throws. But yeah, no. I love it. I love what I made. It is super fun. I have ruined our poor DM. We took out an ancient white dragon at like levels like 7 because we had a bag of holding and had this. You know, like it's such a cool thing, and you wouldn't think that a d4 matters, but I promise you it does, especially when it's in a class that has the ability to create disadvantage on something as often as a sorcerer does. Alright, moving on. Control Chaos. 14th level, you gain a modicum of control on your Wild Magic Surges table. Whenever you roll on the Wild Magic Surge table, you roll twice and you can use either number. This drastically increases the likelihood of you getting something really good and drastically decreases the chance of you rolling something that's like Fireball on self. So, really good. Love it for the class. I wish that there was something else, because this is very much like, hey, depending on how the DM usually rules it, like thankfully my DM was like, hey, do you want this wild magic to actually be something that you do often? I said, absolutely. And so we made it a system to where every time I succeeded on the wild magic search table, which means when I roll my d20, I don't roll a 1, we have it go up by 1. So the next time I have to roll a 1 or 2 in order for it to activate. And then after that, I can roll a 1, 2, or 3, and it will activate. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. so that it increases, exponentially, how, the likelihood of me rolling on the Wild Magic Surge table. However, you may have a DM that's like, yep, nope, that's not the way it's worded. I will only ever have you roll a d20 occasionally after you roll, after you cast a spell first level or higher. And if it's not a 1, then we don't care about it. At which point, this ability is pretty dead. But I like it. It could save your bacon when you need it. Alright, finally, 18th level here, we have Spell Bombardment. The harmful energy of your spells intensifies. When you roll damage for a spell and roll the highest number possible on any of the dice, choose one of those dice, roll it again, and add it to the roll of that damage. You can use this feature only once per turn. Basically, you get to add an extra, damage die on an attack. This sucks. This ability alone, combined with our Control Chaos ability being, depending on how your DM rules at your table, kind of spotty, this is why this is in C tier. Alright, our 18th level, our 14th level, and the fact that this is, at the end of the day, kind of an uncontrolled grenade depending on what you roll on your Wild Magic Surge table, this is why this is C tier. Like, you really mean to tell me that if I fucking roll, say, a Fireball, and I'm going to end up with probably a couple of 6s, because statistically I should roll a couple of 6s, 1 at least, I'm going to increase that Fireball by maybe 3 points of damage. And that's it. This is just not... This is so pathetic for an 18th level, and I'm really disappointed because everything else about this class, 14th level is maybe a little spotty, but I do like it. It does give us a modicum of control over what we do with our surges, but everything else I felt like had such a cool vibe to it. And then here they're just like, we don't know what to give you, so here's a chance to do, a pathetic extra little bit of damage. But hey, there's no limit on it. You can do it every turn depending on, what you roll. It's like, great, well, what if I just constantly roll 9s on my d10s and never 10? What if I just constantly roll, 11 and not 12s on my d12s? Like, then I could go entire combats and never use this ability. Not a fan. And that is why this is in my C tier. And that is where we will end it, is my C tiers. We will check out here part 2, all right, when we will be exploring the top-heavy B and A tiers of our Sorcerer, where I will hopefully manage to convert you into believing that maybe Sorcerers aren't as shitty as you think that they are. But I digress. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you maybe learned something. If you disagree with any of my placements, let me know. And if you completely agree with me, fantastic. At some point when I run for President of the United States, vote for me. All right, and make me, the world leader. All right, and we will control the world, under my fist and recreate it into the perfect utopia. But I digress. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you next time.